Magnesium improves cognition, memory, learning recall, reduces brain fog, it's an antioxidant, it helps neuroplasticity, and it protects against glutamate toxicity. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in the body, and it's critical for optimal cognitive health. It's a cofactor in more than 600 enzymatic reactions. Magnesium assists in converting energy that's supplied by food to a usable form to produce adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, your primary cellular fuel source made within the mitochondria. Magnesium is also needed for the synthesis of RNA and DNA. In your brain, magnesium regulates the activity in neuron ion channels. These channels are like tiny electrical switches, governing the flow of neurotransmitters within these neurons. Magnesium also regulates brain synaptic plasticity, which is critical for learning and memory. Magnesium is critical to all of your body's electrical and electrochemical activities. It's involved in muscle contraction, heart rhythm, nerve function, and brain cell activity. Low blood magnesium level shows up in seizures, hypertension, stroke, migraines, and ADHD. It can also result in insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Magnesium controls the ion channels in the brain cells. These tiny electrical switches control the transmission of electrical signals within and between the neurons, directly regulating learning and memory. Magnesium is necessary for ATP synthesis. It's needed for the Krebs cycle that turns sugar and fat in your diet into ATP, the primary fuel source that's produced in the mitochondria and in the brain cells. Low levels of magnesium in the diet correlate with a high incidence of neurodegenerative disease. Magnesium plays an essential role in neuroplasticity and ATP production, which is fundamental to learning, memory, and cognitive function. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in the body. Many of us in Western society are living with a magnesium deficiency, and most are unaware of this deficiency. Magnesium in our diet comes from food like green leafy vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grain, poultry, beef, and salmon. Tap, mineral, and bottled water also used to be good sources of magnesium, but it varies by the brand. Magnesium is an essential part of neuroplasticity. Brain plasticity is the ability of your neurons to make cell-to-cell connections to form and to regulate learning and memory. With aging or insufficient magnesium in the diet, we lose brain plasticity, and this results in a loss of cognitive function. This is why a young person with an active, flexible brain easily catches new ideas, and simply thinks faster than a person whose brain has lost the plasticity and is more fixed in their pattern. Magnesium is also crucial to synthesizing ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy source produced in the mitochondria in every one of your cells, including the brain. ATP is bound to a magnesium ion in order to be biologically active. This is critically important to how the brain's mitochondria and cells use the ATP, including in the synthesis of DNA and RNA. To put this in perspective, over 300 enzymes and over 600 enzymatic reactions require the presence of magnesium ions for their catalytic action, including all enzymes utilizing ATP. Magnesium is even involved in how other nootropics in your diet are utilized by the cells in your brain. The bottom line is magnesium could be one of the most important additions to any diet. Magnesium boosts brain health and function in several ways. It's critical for neuroplasticity. Your brain is capable of forming new connections between the neurons. When you take in new information, a signal is sent across the synaptic space between the neurons. The ability of your brain to form these new connections is then referred to as neuroplasticity. This neuroplasticity is how learning and memories are formed. When these signaling pathways break down, memories fade, and you start to forget simple things like people's names or phone numbers. A simple example of how this works is reading an article. After you read it, your brain is forming and reforming new neural connections. When things aren't optimal, you find yourself reading and rereading the sentences. Magnesium is critical for maintaining this neuroplasticity and your ability to learn and to form the memories. Magnesium ions control the ion channels, or the electrical switches for the signaling. The more signals that the ion channels transmit, the stronger the connection between the neurons, and the stronger the formation of the resulting memory. Many studies demonstrate the detrimental impact of insufficient magnesium on optimal cognitive function. It's required for ATP synthesis, which is the main energy source produced in the mitochondria and in the brain cells. 20% of your body's total ATP is located in the brain. For ATP to be biologically active, it must be bound to a magnesium ion. About 2/3 of your brain's energy budget is used to help the neurons send signals to neighbouring neurons. The remaining third is used for housekeeping or cellular maintenance. Wei Chen, a radiologist at the University of Minnesota Medical School, was co-author of a study on the brain's use of ATP. The team used magnetic resonance spectroscopy to measure the brain's energy production during shifts in activity. Their study on lab rats noted that when the rats were knocked out, they produced 50% fewer ATP molecules than when they were mildly anesthetized. Chen noted that the ATP produced when the brain is inactive goes to cell maintenance. This housekeeping is important for keeping the brain tissue alive. The other 2/3 are needed for other cellular processes, including recharging neurons so that they can fire, and create the electrical signals that are needed for neuron communication. These are required for learning, memory, recall, and cognition. Without magnesium, your brain can't produce ATP, and all brain function breaks down. As we get older, our brain chemistry and our metabolism changes. Our ATP level declines in the mitochondria. Cognition, learning, memory, and recall decline. Brain plasticity also declines. Free radicals damage the brain cell mitochondria. All of these changes can happen at any age, and they can be the result of not getting an adequate supply of magnesium. So magnesium supplementation can help for age-related cognitive decline, as well as for anyone who wants to boost cognition, learning, recall, and memory. Magnesium plays a critical role in supporting neuroplasticity, which is fundamental for a youthful, flexible brain. A brain that's optimized to support cognition, learning, and memory. Raising brain magnesium levels has been proven to restore neuroplasticity and to improve cognitive function. Magnesium deficiency has been associated with Alzheimer's disease. Scientists have found that a treatment with magnesium L-threonate decreases beta-amyloid deposits in the brain, and it's able to reduce signaling pathways in neurons, helping to restore memory. Magnesium is required for the ATP synthesis in the brain cell, providing the mental energy that's needed for cognition, memory, recall, and learning. Magnesium improves mood. Most users report there's an increased level of focus, energy, memory, and cognitive ability when they're supplementing with a bioavailable magnesium. You should also experience an improved quality of sleep and have an overall improvement in mood. One of the most common reasons that we use supplements is to boost memory and mental energy. Memory loss drastically reduces the quality of life, and simple brain fog makes it difficult to accomplish the easiest tasks. Research has shown that magnesium is involved in memory, learning, and cognition on several levels. And supplementing with magnesium is one of the most fundamental things that you can do to boost your cognition. Synapses in the hippocampus and other areas of the brain strengthen the more that they're used. Even brief repetitive activity results in substantial increases in synaptic strength. The results can last for several hours or even weeks afterwards. This is called long-term potentiation. Several studies have been conducted on magnesium supplements and its effect on memory in the last 20 years. There's positive results, and the studies on aged and young rats found that adding the magnesium to their food improved learning. Researchers have found that magnesium works in the hippocampus to suppress the release of the stress hormone adrenocorticotropic hormone. This is the hormone that tells your adrenal glands to release more cortisol and adrenaline. Too much cortisol eventually damages the hippocampus in the brain. This causes a negative feedback loop, which results in even more stress, which is toxic to the brain and your entire body, and is the cause of chronic depression. A study was done with 5,708 people aged 46 to 49 and aged 70 to 74 in Norway. The aim of the study was to examine the association between magnesium intake and depression and anxiety. The researchers concluded that low magnesium intake is related to depression, and they stated the findings may have public health and treatment implications. Another study done with 12 subjects found that magnesium supplementation improved sleep and it lowered the stress hormone cortisol. They concluded that the magnesium has a possible efficacy as a mood stabilizer. Magnesium in the treatment of ADHD is becoming more mainstream. There's a growing body of research that supports the idea that one of the factors causing ADHD is a lack of magnesium. A study in Poland showed that 95% of children who were examined with ADD and ADHD were magnesium deficient. Recommended magnesium dose in most common form is 400 milligrams per day. The problem is most magnesium supplements don't work well as a nootropic because they don't cross the blood-brain barrier easily. Research began at MIT by Dr. Inanna Slutsky and came up with a new magnesium supplement called magnesium L-threonate. This new magnesium compound easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. Recommended doses of magnesium are up to 1,000 milligrams per day. Magnesium is water-soluble, so you don't need to take it with a meal or a healthy fat. Most forms of magnesium can cause diarrhea and bloating if used in excess. Magnesium is sold as magnesium aspartate, bisglycinate, citrate, lactate, oxide, chloride, taurate, and L-threonate. The form that I recommend is magnesium bisglycinate. To reduce side effects, spread your dose between breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Magnesium oxide is widely available, but it's poorly absorbed, so it should be avoided. Your body doesn't make magnesium on its own, so to get its benefit, it needs to come from your diet or from a supplement. Magnesium is especially helpful for boosting memory, learning, recall, mood, and cognition. Magnesium is also particularly useful to help to alleviate some of the symptoms of ADHD and help to restore memory caused by neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Magnesium is also useful to help you to fall asleep and to stay asleep. If you're counting on getting at least some magnesium from a multivitamin, make sure that it doesn't use cheap magnesium oxide. For more information about herbs, vitamins, minerals, supplements, and health conditions, check out my website.